I'm gonna be. Ready? Okay, welcome everybody to the Guilford Parks and Recreation Commission meeting of June 3rd, 2024. I'd like to call the meeting to order. And is there anyone in public forum? I don't see anyone in the waiting room.
Nobody in the way.
Nobody in the waiting room, so we can move along. So we'll move on to correspondence received and forwarded. And I know that there was two bits of correspondence about Adirondack chairs at Jacobs, so we're gonna move that down. We'll talk about that under number six. That's on the agenda, so we won't discuss those until we get to number 6. So does anybody have any questions, also with regard to the pickleball court email that came in? We're also going to add that to new business number 11 after the meeting.
The one about,
So I'll make the motion
Yeah.
to do that.
Okay, so Rose makes a motion to move the pickleball email down to 11B under new business. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Rose and all. So is there any other questions or discussion on the correspondence? Most of it's been moved to somewhere else right now.
the Jacobs
Except for
speech meeting about the weeds and the funding and the removal of.
Yeah, we were kind of hoping she was gonna pop on the call. I wanted to know who she was and how she knew we had money in the budget for this because I was interested. Pam, what do you?
Because I didn't know we had money.
So
in the
I
budget
reached
for it.
out to her and just told her no, that we would not be speaking about the weeds during our presentation. However, she could come on during a public forum and make a comment about it. I thought she would be here. I would like to ask Will a question because I met with John Cunningham today in regards to trees, weeds, all that kind of thing. And he mentioned that there was funding left and apparently some money that was given to his firm. So I wasn't sure if you knew about that.
John had mentioned something to that. I don't know the specifics of it. There was like a donation or something.
All right, so apparently there's
You would know better than I.
$3,000 left. And we talked a little bit about, how we would, utilize that money because they have a $500 donation and trying to figure out where to plant these trees that apparently that has come to the commission in the past. So because I was new and a couple of the stakes where he put trees out, I had questions about. That's why we met today. So he's gonna meet with his board on Thursday and then he's gonna kind of revisit that and then we can, as a board, revisit it too, or I'll send it all out to the board too. But he did mention that for additional funds and I'm thinking that this couple is talking about those funds.
Didn't we have volunteers?
I was thinking about that.
I'm sorry, didn't we what? Did we have volunteers at one time? We're helping to design the weeding and cleaning up, We're not talking about the work, we're talking,
Right, but the problem with having volunteers, in my experience, it's so hard to keep a consistency, so I think that we really should during budget time, think about putting together a yearly budget. Our guys can't manage being
No,
lands,
no,
like,
they can't. There's no
If
time.
I may,
Yes.
Years ago, we even spoke about like a maintenance fund for, a couple times a season. You bring in a contract workers, they actually know what to weed and then things exist. Like there was a perennial garden on that near the bathhouse that disappeared because it just couldn't get maintained. And there were a couple other beds like.
Yeah, I've heard near the splash pad went away too, so I think
So,
they're really good dollars spent.
For the rest of the summer, is there, other than just that $3,000, can we use perhaps some funds, either the program fund or do we have money in a line item? We could check with Mary Jane to see if there's some money in a line item to get it started.
Right, I think that we could look at the program account for that, but I do think, like, for instance, there's 4 beautiful stone pots at Jacobs Beach that are empty. And I know from the Leeds Island Garden Club, they just don't have the volunteers this year to help with that. Yeah,
I know
they
the
have,
Wilson Garden
and they're
Club
most
is
of their most of their volunteers are getting really old, they're
Yeah.
older. And one's my neighbor and she's in her eighties and so she recommended the plants that she feels would do very well in those pots. But again, you know,
Who's gonna plant?
who's gonna, well, plant them, even planting, we probably could figure out, but then who's gonna maintain them, who's gonna water them?
Water them.
So it's better to have a company come down and just handle it, manage it, and really, it would look absolutely beautiful, flowers, beautiful.
Agreed.
So maybe that's something I will gather from Lee's Island to share with you, and then maybe get prices from a vendor that would take care of it for the summer, and then we can talk about what we can do budgeting for annual maintenance.
That's great.
Okay.
Thank you. And then there was a final email that I wanted to make public in the minutes, was a thank you to Alfredo, the driver, and how they loved his friendliness. He's always on time, and we are very lucky to have a lot of drivers out there. Well, I don't know about a lot of drivers, but the ones we have, I see them at the physical therapy place next to my office every day. Driving, they're so careful, they are so nice, and so we should give a big shout out to Alfredo, the driver, and thank him, and to all the other drivers as well. They're very kind. I always run out and ask if they want a drink or a bathroom. And I mean, like soda water, not a drink. So yeah, so I wanted it to be, so I wanted it to be out there, so thank you, Alfredo.
But Pam, just, I understand that the phones that you've gotten them has helped a lot.
Yep, so
So
what we did
it
was
was going easier and,
what we did was we implemented town phones for the bus drivers, because through my one-on-one meetings, I understood that there's just this lag time or waiting time when the buses drive up and they sit in front of someone's house and no one comes out, that our drivers call the office, and who knows where Savannah is, who, she's on the other line, or if she's talking, for Savannah to call the house that they're sitting in front of, so we got them town phones so they can call directly and save that 10 or 15 minutes. So far,
yeah, they're
so far,
happy
so
with that, okay, yeah.
So far,
They are.
we don't want them using their cell phones because then they get phone calls from all the.
At 2 o'clock in the morning. I
And
think that's
yeah.
right. Okay, so moving on, to the minutes of the May 6th meeting, could I have a motion, please, to approve the minutes?
So moved.
And a second? And is there any discussion or changes? So all in favor of approving the minutes?
I'm abstaining, so it wasn't here. Me too.
Okay, and 2 abstentions. Thank you. The expenditures, they're trying something new to make it more relevant and up to date for us. And there were some errors spotted, so we will get them after the meeting and approve them with next month's at the next meeting. Okay? Good. Let me just take this off if I skip. Load. Okay, so benches and out around that chair requests, we've had 2 requests. Well, one was a bench, we don't really have, well, we do have park benches, don't we? Okay, and we have room for 18 benches and 15 chairs, and currently we have 13 benches and 12 chairs.
Unless this changed since 2021.
And where do those go? Okay, not all along the walkway.
No, some of them we thought should go around the splash pad. Some are maybe a little more maybe around the playground, so that was not the intent when we went and did this.
So having said that, but I think we definitely have room for more. So having read their correspondence, we'll make a motion to approve each one separately or, okay. So we'll go with the first one, which is, let's go with the one from David Alpert.
Can I ask you a question? This is about them each, because one says Adirondack chair and one says bench, and I'm not totally sure if, like, maybe the person saying a bench doesn't care if it's Adirondack chair or a bench. I mean, if there's something that we think would be better, because it seemed to me that the point of that was to memorialize her mom at the beach. I'm just putting that out there in terms of the numbers, or we had a idea of where it should go.
She said, I see bench twice.
Yeah, and I think,
Jennifer.
I think my suggestion would be that the commission approves the proposal and the request, and I'll meet out with them physically.
Yeah.
To find out where the best location is. Because we don't want it too crowded, right? So if it's an Adirondack Trail. we'll
No,
do
you know,
this.
yeah, when Claire and I did this, we sort of walked all these places, we sort of had ideas of where they want to go, so I'm happy to walk it.
Okay, sure.
I had a question about the second one, about the bench.
So
Did
let's-
she- did she
So
make a
let's
good-
work one at
one
a
at a
time.
time.
So let's do David Alpers, if you don't mind. First, do we have a motion to approve his request for an Adirondack chair in honor of, in memory of his father, Charles? And a second? And is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, now next, if we have a motion for Jennifer Cavallaro's letter, just a motion to approve.
I want to have a question.
Well, what's after that?
I'll make a motion.
We need a second.
Second.
Questions and discussion.
Okay, thank you. Did she donate money for this?
They'll,
Well,
it's
they
at
pay
their
for it.
expense.
Ah,
It's a donation to the town.
got it. Because I didn't see, because I know the first letter says, please accept my donation, and I, okay, great.
Any other discussions, concerns? All in favor of the proposal to put a bench
And I
from
thank,
Jennifer
and
Cavallaro?
I thank you for walking with me. Well, and then we can report back in July as to where the location
Sure,
is.
no problem.
I,
You all right, Kara? Are you-
Yeah,
Oh,
okay,
you
sorry.
look like you were.
No,
I
I don't have the right glasses with me. If I look confused,
You're
I'm
looking
off.
at me
They're
like-
crooked and they're, so no, I'm fine.
Oh, no. Okay, so we've had a first, we've had a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Excellent, so that's that.
True.
That's- all right, we're doing well, we're working toward a 7 o'clock, public meeting. So director's report, any highlights?
So I've listed my highlights. I think one of the nicer highlights is that the pickleball courts, the basketball court are painted. They look absolutely beautiful.
yes, fine.
I think it speaks for itself. I do think that the Lake Q improvements, and a shout out to our engineer department, because from what I understand, my colleagues in town and staff have not seen a project move on so quickly. So our engineer department just did a phenomenal job. We wanted ADA access to the lake, and by all those pictures you can see that they put in there,
You know what?
it's
I
phenomenal.
can't wait to go.
It is phenomenal
Yeah.
because I've asked for that for years
Long
at the
time.
lake and they kept telling us it's the water, the drainage, this is, I mean, so
Now it's
I appreciate that.
Yeah, it really looks fabulous, and it was taken all out of program account, which is appropriate. And as you can see on the next page, we had the survey for the two playgrounds. And the playground committee had brought it down to a top 2 designs for both playgrounds. And we have it on there for them.
It's respondents. That's all.
No, that's fantastic.
So shall I just talk?
Yeah,
about
just-
that?
Yeah, tell us
no,
which
it's
one,
fine, it's not
which
really
one
there.
won?
Right, so the committee did have a difficult decision because the survey, which was super interesting, was that in Bittner Park, it was hands down 70% love creative recreation and 30% against Compan. And that was pretty much where the committee also laid. Then at Jacobs, the public was 60% for Compan and 40% for creative. However, after much discussion with both vendors on grading and drainage and questions about the poured and play rubber surface, we just didn't get the warm response that we felt we wanted, or the committee
I think
wanted.
we didn't get any response that was reasonable from.
The company, the rep really wanted us to choose them before they would go into any more detail about. So we went to creative for both playgrounds. And so we went back to John with Creative Recreation and basically said, I'm 100% confident in our product, I'm 100% confident in the experience we've had in the past regarding poured and play and wet surfaces. And we said, hey, can we tweak the design? 100%, we can tweak the
Can we tweak
design.
it?
We have no problem with that. So it was just kind of night and day in terms of working
Are they
relationship.
both on the shoreline?
Like an open slide.
Creative is, I've worked with them, yeah,
Oh,
many
you
times,
have?
North
Oh.
Branford, Darien,
Oh.
I had, yeah.
So-
And Comp Plan is great too, it's just unfortunately in the final hour, we just couldn't get the response that we were hoping for.
But I like,
And so we did tweak it a little bit.
So we are unable to completely redesign Bittner, Jacobs
Jacobs.
with him due to timing issues. We have design and review, we've got zoning, we've got tonight's public hearing that we had to get through. But we tweaked it to the way we like,
Yep.
and then if we need to make a difference in equipment, there's some things we can chop and
Right,
change a
and
little
he-
back.
so we went with the two from creative.
Yes.
Okay, because I like the way this is sort of
Yes,
divided.
that's how, and with that proposal, we also, in fact, John said, in your design with the walkway, kind of that crazy walkway, ADA walkway around it, that was in his design, in his 490,000, but he's willing to work with us to do
Good.
that. You know, possibly a little additional with the ADA surface, but he's more than happy to do that for us.
It's totally worth it.
Because most of his plan didn't work without the ADA. So, but he did tweak it so that those rubber, did you see it in the rubber
Yeah,
surfaces?
I went and compared both.
Instead of the spots, he made it more accessible for someone to use the port in place rubber surface to do more things within one entrance rather than having to get on the path, find an entrance, go on the path, find another entrance. So
And so the committee, it was Tony and you, me and Claire.
And
And Ellen, felt it was very important that you all know that the choice was hard because we preferred one design.
Right.
But we felt we're spending the town's money, the people's money, and that we needed to have the correct answers about warranties and
Sure.
drainage and all of that. So we had to completely reverse our thoughts about it. And so we're actually kind of excited now that it's moving forward. And Will, in your presentation, you have the new,
No, I've just set aside where the playground is and what the grading adjustment.
that's
My question is, can we not have that covered slide? I was worried about
pointing
that.
at.
That blue covered slide, I was worried about kids being in there and
The only thing
animals
I
being
can
in
say-
there.
popular though.
Yeah, because I was at I'm Bittner Jacobs today,
Yeah.
and the slides get hot.
That's
And the
true.
kids are like, oh, they don't wanna go on the slide, 'cause it's too hot.
I just get worried if some little kid gets stuck in there.
I think there's just some common thoughts, but
Yeah.
but they're not
Okay.
common things that actually happen.
Right.
And it's not,
All right.
And the kids love the excitement of the darkness,
dark,
going
yeah.
through it.
Alright.
It's a little bit more exciting than an open slide. So I do
They get stuck in this.
Let's say virtue.
Oh, yeah, I know that from experience. That is twisted it all over. This is just a line.
So you could worry,
Yeah.
well, no, that was different. What I mean is that is one to get stuck in, but this is just a.
All right, as long as.
Or I have
Yeah.
the thing too of like, oh, I overthink everything, but like animals going in there at night or.
never seen it happen.
Okay,
Never seen it
Yep.
happen.
we have to ask.
Of course, but I've been doing it a long time in our playgrounds, and I think that it's fun to keep some a little bit challenging.
Yeah,
exciting
yeah.
Little elements.
I like it. Sounds good.
Is that it with your director's report or anything else you want to highlight?
I think
Senior prom was fun.
senior prom was great, that's why I added some additional pictures. Terry at first was a little disappointed, I didn't have many pictures there, so, but
I still say that would be a fabulous band for the beach next year.
that's great,
They were,
okay.
A fabulous band for a beach concert, is that?
yes,
Who was it?
I forgot who they were. Terry knows, but they,
Never mind.
there's a lot of horns.
We'll
and
take a look at
they
that.
really projected. It'd be
Wow.
great on the summer beach concerts, we thought. Few of us thought that.
Final, okay. So we'll move to the committees, the commission representative reports, so standing fields, Mike is not here. So we'll move on, Green Committee,
Haven't had one yet.
okay, no meeting, and land acquisition,
no comment.
no. Okay.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
All right, we'll move on to number 9, unfinished business. And I think we all
Oh,
need to
thank
celebrate the fact that
Please.
Jacob Septic is coming off the agenda. Well done.
Let's hope that it all works this summer well.
Gosh, please, don't.
And we hand planted 2,000 plugs, myself, Todd, and a handful of volunteers, including the engineering department. We ordered them lickety split, because we wanted to make sure we put a fence around the leaching field, and they're growing. So we have sprinklers out there at 7 a.m. in the morning, timed for a couple hours, and at 7 o'clock at night for a couple hours.
Thank you for doing that.
Good.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Wow.
We did touch on the pickleball courts. They've been painted, they're complete. Jacob's Beach Improvement Project we're gonna discuss that at the public meeting, so that's going to include the shade cloth and lots of other things. We'll leave it at
Seven
that.
other.
Yeah. And then finally, the Guilford Garden Club on the Blue and Gold Star Memorials proposal.
I have not heard back from her. We know that's a process.
I'll tell you that I saw Shelley, over the weekend, and she said everything up the line has been approved, and I guess just a matter of time.
Good. Yeah, so she'll come back and
Yes, I'm sure she'll have to come back, but she said all the other approvals that needed to take place took place.
Now, there's one thing I think probably should remain on unfinished business is the path in Bittner Park. Just to keep it on our agenda for
in unfinished business.
in
Okay,
unfinished,
I'll
yeah.
add that next
Yeah,
meeting.
the Bittner Park, because there's
Yep.
been grants, yeah, here you go, that need to be applied for. So I was thinking about, it, it's like, oh, whatever happened to
yeah,
that? And I
you're
hate
right.
to see it fall off the agenda. All right, guys, we've done really well so far. So we are going to listen to the public hearing, to thousands of people who are signing in. So they can have their questions, but it's also for you all to kind of reacquaint ourselves with everything. And then we're going to approve the playground recommendations after that meeting. And then we'll discuss that other email we'll be discussing further, and then we'll adjourn. So,
There we go.
is there anyone waiting to come in?
Now,
Started.
Well, it's 7 o'clock, so we do have some time.
7 minutes.
So we have 7 minutes. Can we talk about that email? The one moved, the Bittner Park, about the pickleball one?
Sure.
We can do that in 7 minutes, right?
Sure.
Okay.
So I received text this weekend from Tom Hending, who just gave me a heads up that there was a lot of arguments and some contentious feelings about who's playing football, policies, rules, no signs, people from out of town telling people from town what the rules are. And so every court was taken. Most people did not want to play on the basketball, pickleball lines because there's still that feeling of balls rolling into the skate park, skateboarders rolling into the basketball court, so that's got to be addressed as well. I thought that one of the skateboarders would show up tonight. He did not. I think it would be a great idea to have a 4-foot fence that we have now. We're gonna be bringing that up to an 8-foot on Friday that we discussed in the past, but I think we should put a 4-foot between the basketball and skate park. Because the skateboarders are, in fact, that skateboarder called me and said, I just want to give you a heads up, someone was very angry, they were yelling at me and screaming at me for going on a basketball court, that's always what we've done in the past. I said, yeah, but you have to understand that we spent thousands of dollars to paint those courts. They look beautiful, and trust me, my son's a skateboarder, but skateboarders can scuff the court, so I hope you can understand that. And, you know, he did. And I did talk to him about the 4-foot fence. I thought he was gonna come and talk about his disappointment of my hearing about a 4-foot fence, but that would indeed keep them, they won't stop, they'll climb it if they have to, but they won't have that 20 feet, you know,
To keep going.
right, to keep going past it. And balls won't be, you know, going under the skateboarders either for pickleball or basketball. So I think that's something we really should move forward.
So the plan, I didn't hear about the 8-foot fence. We'd already discussed the 8-foot fence.
It would have been, we discussed, yeah, about bringing that up and having another windscreen. Cause it's
Yes,
just so
definitely.
beautiful.
Yeah.
and it's worthy of that. So then the other email that came in just really talked more about, what is the policy? And I did look through the computer. I couldn't find any policies that have been drawn up on the pickleball court. So as you know, and as I've mentioned a few months into my start here, we worked very hard during, because our pickleball courts are brand new too. So I would suggest let's not create the wheel, recreate the wheel. I'll bring them here. We can mark them up. Or Laura's suggestion too is maybe to get a few people, like we do a playground committee, and work off-site together and then recommend back to the commission about what, because the reason we say that too is that every month, by the time we revisit this monthly, it's not gonna be over.
Yeah.
We're not gonna have any signs posted.
Yeah.
And I think there might be some potential big arguments.
So I think the written policy would be great with a committee, because that should happen and that comes for a vote. I also think that the committee, whoever you are, would be great to get some signage organized sooner than later. And can we do that via email and approve things?
And it would
via-
be consistent with Adams, same signage, both
Yeah.
places. So there'd be no
In
confusion.
fact, there was something here I read. Did you
Well,
share
if that's
that or?
the case, we have it at Adams, I can move on that quickly by having eliminated signs, because that's an easy fix right away.
Yeah.
The committee can then revisit, are these signs appropriate? Do we need to add anything else to?
And really work on the rules.
Yeah.
And the rules?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there are no policies right now?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, as soon as I see verbally abusive, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
just-
but
I
the
just have a
way
really
we
hard time
seem
with that.
to be living in these days. Everyone is angry and.
And the culture of pickleball
yes.
is inclusive and,
And that's the way it is here. You said there never seems to be a problem and we always, people are very respectful.
Was that
I
about
don't know.
picture that?
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
On the weekend?
Yeah,
I
and it,
think I'll
I'd be
go
happy to be
hang out
part of
on
the
the
pickleball.
weekend.
and
I'll
it's
bring
gonna
the book
happen,
and
the
see what
more
goes
that
on.
people hear that our course just got painted, and it's gorgeous,
Yeah.
the more people are gonna come because they've overheard.
It's
how
like, yes,
gorgeous
so if
they
you
are.
build it, they will come and we've added to it and improved them.
So we're getting Branford, we're getting Madison. Yeah.
Okay, so
I know you had in Darien, you
Working
had
on
your
the
own set of rules. And when I was in Florida, I barely played pickleball because they had millions of pickleball courts, 12, 15 of
Yeah.
them. And all they had was the racket thing up. And so the only thing you could do was put your racket up. There was no team reach, there was no blaze pickleball, there was no whatever. You put your paddle up and you played, and that's the way it was, you know what I mean? So I'm not saying that's how we should do it, but I'm saying,
We talked about that.
That's common. I've seen that, yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Yep,
We haven't started.
we haven't started yet. So
I would suggest that if we're gonna have a committee that at least Mike plays avidly, and I think
Can
Brad
I
plays
bring
as well.
someone from outside? I might ask someone that I
Well, I
know
think
is
at
very
least
big.
Brad
So
and Mike
so
should
if
be
you
on that
have an
committee.
interest to be on that committee or know of someone, like I nominated Claire for the playground people, just thought she's been very helpful too. She's really good at it. So please get your let Pam know.
Yeah.
By email that you are interested. I'll reach out to Mike and to Brad.
Yeah.
And it would be but we'll work on getting those signs quicker. In the meantime, because it's laminated, we can fix it. Yep.
I would definitely suggest that we have a good group of people, Mike and John or Brad are both part of Team Reach, so they have their own agenda. I don't want to be mean about it, but we need
No,
to
we
make
need
sure
different
that
perspectives.
every perspective is
Yeah.
recognized.
I think that's important.
So I think we need to get 6
Okay,
people at least.
so
Something like
everybody ought to
But it's good to have
do
people
that, get
talk.
their information.
Yeah, I would from outside, yes.
Thank you, appreciate it, thanks.
So with that in mind, I guess we've covered item B on number 11.
Yeah.
And we will now pause our regularly scheduled meeting. And we will begin the public meeting. Hello, everybody, welcome.
There's only literally one.
Is it?
Mary, get the report.
So is there anyone on the outs on Zoom? Anyone wanting to come in?
There is not.
I was expecting 1,000 people.
You know, a woman told me earlier that I could go online and kind of brightens up my opinion, and I searched it, did not find anything like that. So
Well, that was a playground survey.
that came in mind.
Well, today, it ended this morning.
Oh, okay, because I was looking for at 6 o'clock and I found no trace of it.
It was looking on the town website, unless they just bought it.
No, that's
So,
fine.
so we're going to start, it's past 7 o'clock and I am your timekeeper here. So we're gonna turn the floor over to Will, who's going to give you an overview of all the changes that we are hoping and anticipating making at Jenkins.
It's also over here.
And if people are watching, are they gonna see one over the other or not? Not necessarily.
Well, there's no one
no one
watching, and we're not gonna worry. If they come in, then we'll ask them what they see.
Pam, can you put it on scroll?
Scroll.
So you go you go to view up here in the,
It's in yours, yeah.
go to view.
Yeah.
Page navigation or display. Page display, enable scrolling.
Oh.
Okay, and then that way you can go up and down and zoom in and out.
Okay.
Alright. So, good evening. My name is Will Thompson. I'm an architect. For the record, I'm at 28 South Fair Street here in Guilford. I've, working on some various improvements for Jacobs Beach for the town, for your. And, I'm working with John Cunningham, he's the landscape design. Together, with several others, we actually did the early improvements for Jacobs, so. So, just to kind of help everyone find everything, here's an overall map of the beach. Down sheet is the shoreline, the red are the rock outcroppings, the road coming in, the boardwalk, splash pad area, the pavilions, the playground area. Okay. There are several distinct elements that we've been asked to look at, making improvements for the beach. One is, Park and Recs is looking to replace the playground equipment, which at this point you've selected a vendor. But the detail of that equipment is not my purview, but I've been asked to raise that area so it doesn't flood so frequently. So, Pam, could you just go to the next sheet? Perfect. Thank you. A little less, right there. So this whole area acts like a bowl, even in minor flooding at this point. So we've been at, well, basically doing is we're gonna take the grade that's near the back of the splash pad and where the pathway edges the splash pad, we're gonna raise this grade of this area. And then it's going to basically sheet, run off to the north into the east. And the idea is to make it not particularly noticeable, but at the same time, we're gonna take advantage of that, potentially make these lawns function a little better, looking to extend the irrigation and to adjust that grading a little bit. Now, we have to be careful because we have coastal wetland zone over here. So all this work will be set back from that area. We go back to the first sheet.
Those are the fields there, right? Oh,
Right.
Yeah, okay.
So if we can go back to the other sheet, go up. So this whole area in the lowest point is coming up about 2 feet. When we get into these fields, we're really raising more or less 6 to 8 inches over, you know, 50 feet here, 70 feet here, 100 feet there. So this whole zone, we're utilizing, there's an existing court that doesn't change, and then there's I think a volleyball here. We're maintaining those point grades at the corner of the volleyball. It's transitioning in the zone in between, so that main lawn will come up about 8 inches.
Even for flooding, the coastals, I mean, the zones right next to it, that's actually helpful.
It's like that whole area,
Yeah.
that area also has a lot of clay in the soil, which will allow that soil to be kind of reinvigorated. So that's, as far as for the playground and the grading, that's the main intent of that zone. If we can now, jump to the next sheet. Sorry. So the other thing we're looking at is we're going to add several shade elements. The easternmost part of the boardwalk, which is sort of a picnic zone, we're gonna do 3 sail-like shades elements, and then over the splash pad, 2 sort of umbrella-like elements. If we go to the next page, it will show these a little more detail.
Well, are they temporary or permanent?
The frames would be permanent, but the fabrics would be seasonal. And the fabric's designed to come off relatively easily. So let's say there was a Sandy coming or a hurricane, they could be taken down without a huge amount of work. They have clips.
Can you think of them about 3 months a year or something?
They
July, August.
would be up probably, I would guess more like 9, I'm guessing, but that would be ultimately Park and Rec's decision. It depends how active the beach is. So this is a view if we're looking across where that boardwalk is towards basically Grass Island. And these are the 3 shade-like, sail-like elements, and beyond are the 2 umbrella-like elements. And these are taking those same elements and turning them in different views, so you can sort of see their shape. The ones over the splash pad look like just big rectangular umbrellas. They're cantilevered, so the post would happen at the back of the splash pad and not really impact what's already there. The sail-like elements, there's 3 sort of triangular pieces with masts with slightly different heights. If we now go down sheet to the second one again, I just want to go to the plan.
And Will, are those cemented? How are those in?
So the posts would be galvanized metal. They would be in a concrete footing
Okay.
below the sands. And it's a cantilever arrangement. In that area of the beach, we have about 6 to 7 feet of sand before we get into basically a lot of like marsh peat.
Yep.
There's no glacial tilt for almost 30 feet down, but these are designed to work in that sand element.
How tall are they?
They are, that's what I was about to point to. They're very similar to the height of the picnic pavilions. So they're roughly, I want to say roughly 14 feet at their highest, but in general, they're more like in the kind of 10, 12 foot zone. Exactly. And when we go to the first sheet, you'll see this whole lineup was set up actually a long time ago in the original plan as a place that this could happen without blocking lines of sight, very dramatic. The other thing going on is we have existing trees. And when I was talking about the regrading of the playground, these trees are on some berms. So those berms actually work pretty well to the grading. But I should mention these 3 trees are not doing well, and we're looking at replacing them in those same spots. This one tree here was cut down, it died. So we want to replace that with just a honey locust, similar to what we have. And the one tree we're talking about adding is in that same line, another honey locust here, which would also be nice for scale. And those are not particularly thick trees, they have that very, very small leaf, very dappled.
And good in water.
They work they're very resistant to this environment.
Yeah.
The other thing going on, and I'll go to the last sheet in a minute, is in this area of the splash pad, there were some plantings that were intended a long time ago. I think already owned by the town, but are to go in. And John Cunningham and I developed a bit more infill here. And another bench right here, the Park Service wants to have an informational placard to do with Faulkner's Island. And
Yeah.
we're talking about putting it here, and this bench would be a place you can see Faulkner's. A lot of the beach, you actually cannot see Faulkner's, but over here you can. And with several members of design review, we looked at it with the Park and Rec representative, his name's Sean. And we all agreed that this could be a nice spot for it. And I'll go to a detail of that in a minute. So we're trying to kind of tie these disparate pieces together. but in a way that doesn't really impact the bigger plan, you know? So one other thing, we can now go up sheet to the first one. I want to show another piece. So there are a lot of camp activities that occur through the summer. And they use this, there's a hose bib spigot between these pavilions, and we've been asked to add another shower element, which would be the same type, in fact, the town already owns it, as we did at this end. And tentatively, we're putting it between the pavilions. We all looked at one other spot, but it sounds like for the people that direct the camp, this is their best spot. We have water there already. We would create a little more shrub screening just to, so, because proximity to parking lot, it's not really a privacy thing, it's just an outdoor shower. But just to kind of buffer a little, there's a nice tree that's already established, so this would work in conjunction without impacting that tree. The one other alternate spot had been discussed was here, but that may also impact band, you know, the band shell and all that activity. So at this point, we're leaving this at this zone. So to recap, we're talking about grading for the playground, which also potentially helps the fields. We're talking about this additional shower element, this couple of shade elements, this signage for Faulkner's with a bench and infill planting that was actually always intended there. It's just kind of reinvigorated a little bit. And replacing these sickly trees, one that rotted, and then the addition of one locust.
Also, under the pavilions, the stone.
Oh, I'm sorry. And I wrote it on here, but I didn't say it. Thank you, Pam. So the pavilion's ground surface, we're looking at using either permeable pavers. That's our preference, or we might do stamped concrete. It's between those two. The advantage of the permeable pavers is we're not impacting the, you know, the amount of impermeable surface in this plot. Yes, thank you. So if we could go, if we could, to the last sheet. So this is a sketch, and I don't know if you guys can see it well or not. That's the path. Boat racks are here. That's where the splash pad is. And basically, excellent. We're looking at a bit more infill, and John Cunningham's called out the species here and so on. And that's not my expertise, so I'm not going to fill that in, but it's on the paper. It's all very low. This tree already exists. Some of this exists. It's more to do with the low shrub elements and ground cover elements. That's sort of in a nutshell.
Nice.
What is the timeline?
Well, Pam would like it to start tomorrow.
Is it all approved and the money for it?
So, the shade structures, actually, there's been a donation for what looks like the majority of the cost from a resident that really wants to add some shade for people to have that option. The rest of it to do with funding, that I don't know the answer.
Right, so, we're looking to go to design review on June 18th. And hoping to get approval there. In the meantime, we're gonna apply for the application for P and Z for July 3rd. So if we get the approval of June 18th, we can go straight ahead to July 3rd, be our final approval. We still are looking for a cost estimate for all this work. Until we get the final cost estimate on all of it, then we will understand better whether we can move forward with most of it, all of it, whether we need to go phases. The playground itself is ARPA funding, so 490,000 is already earmarked for that playground. So that's set. We have the donation for the sales, that's set. So the only thing we're looking for right now is underneath the pavilions and stone, raising the grade and improving the lawn areas near the pavilions. And
How would that impact the summer right now, though,
we're not looking for summer.
Oh, good, okay, because I'm thinking have people rented
This
the
is
pavilions ready?
basically fall, winter.
This is fall, like, our pie in the sky dream would
Yeah.
be, we get Vintner Playground done at the end of August into September. And if we're all set with the playgrounds, which now we made our choices. If that goes through, we can order for Jacobs so that we can get the order for fall. And
Great.
but like latest spring, 2025. We'd hope for fall, but sometimes things move slower than.
And for the shade structures, I actually spent some time with a select vendor. So, you know, we know relative numbers, availability, et cetera. It'll likely be a bid element, but it's just, at least we have a reasonable handle on what those costs are, and that was already allocated through that donation for the most part, so.
Right, well, I think what's really great, which I'll show you in the next slides, is that the playground committee chose the design that had an additional shade element that separated both the 2 to 5 year olds and the 5 to 12, which is also a shade
Sail light.
sail light.
Yep.
So I think it'd be great to match the same vendor that you're showing that from. So it all matches.
With that, I understand people's desire for shade, although quite frankly, I don't think that's the main reason people go to the beach. But at any rate, you want to provide it for those who need it, and I understand the skin doctor wants to pay for the one over the splash pad. But, and they seem to be low in the fact that they're seasonally low. So I live on Seaside Avenue, and many of us attracted to Seaside Avenue because of the views. And you keep planting trees. And I was actually part of this committee when you did the first Jacobs Beach renovation. And all these trees there, and you know what, about 50% of them died, and it's a beach. And so one, they die, and the other is grasses, bushes, rocks, I mean, they're all interesting things to do, which won't die, they'll thrive, and they don't obstruct the view of the people who do live on Seaside. And I know you cut the first 6 feet off, it just means you leave the bloom to totally, I mean, from when I moved 12 years ago till now, you pretty much in a row obliterated the view of Long Island Sound. And there's actually an ordinance that prohibits that, but I mean, I don't want to get into that. I'm just like, at this early stage, to think in terms of your shade from these other structures, and you've got the 2 pavilions that exist, which are shade structures. You've got a ton of trees down there, which, as I say, spread out in a total line from Seaside, blocking the view. But to add, I mean, Rick just took down that big pine tree that was dead, the only reason he took it down, and now we hear like the guys going in, replacing the trees that died, just is very upsetting. So I would just, I was just asking people on my mind, we have, I mean, the town of Guilford owns like hundreds, if not thousands of acres of beautiful forested land and hiking land, which I think is absolutely fabulous, all yay trees and ecology and whatever. We're planting more and more on the town green. It's turning into a forest from the initial pasture ground, but whatever, I'm fine with that. But to insist on a ton of trees on the beach, like constantly adding trees to the beach, I would just ask you to think long about that.
May I ask for your name and address? Is that the appropriate thing to do? Yes, for the record.
Teresa Bryant, 90 Seaside Avenue.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And that's understandable. I mean, honestly, I live in North Guilford, so I have a lot of trees, but I never really thought of it that way. I tend to think when I go down I'm from Guilford all my life. I tend to, when I go down Seaside Avenue, and I don't know where your houses are, but like, I get annoyed at the people that are building up, that just keep building up.
Well, I have to go flooding.
Yes, I know.
We gotta start.
But I agree with you that with the trees, it is a beast. That's a good point. It really is. I didn't really even think of it that way until you brought it to the attention.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Are there any other comments? So name and address first.
What has prompted the need for these modifications? Is this part of an existing plan that you're just going forward with? Or have you sensed something on the part of town residents or beach occupants or visitors that have said these things are needed or even urgent? And I wonder about that. I think the beach is wonderful. We live across from it, and it's terrific, but I'd appreciate knowing some more about why are we doing this?
The playgrounds were put in how many years ago?
Over 22 years.
Yeah, so it's time to be replaced. They need to be replaced.
They need to be
They're,
renovated,
they
safety upgraded.
slides break, we put pieces back on for safety reasons and everything, so it's time, and we were given the funds to do it, so it doesn't cost the taxpayers any money to do that. So that's where the playgrounds stand. With regard to the shade structure, the families, I think, of the town said it would be nice to have a bit more shady places for people to maybe stop and have lunch or whatever. So that has been driven from the town. Am I right? Okay.
I go down to the concerts, the evening concerts they have there. And quite honestly, people are, everybody's trying to crowd under the shade. You know, so they do want a little more shade.
And I would
Just-
also say, this is kind of fun, but I don't even think of Jacobs as much of a swimming beach, as just a sitting beach. I mean, there's plenty of little kids that might go in the water, but most adults kind of just either come with an umbrella or
They like to
somewhere,
walk the
and they
boardwalk.
like to sit in the shade, like to walk the boardwalk, or people go out with their kayaks and that
And I
kind of thing.
think on top of that, there are a lot of people that come for the playground and
And
now
I
for the
know I
splash
go for the
pad.
playground,
So
yeah.
it's not necessarily sitting on the beach getting
Right.
tan.
Yeah,
They're, wanna be comfortable while they're watching their children.
I was there today, very hot.
The one thing, I have actually never noticed the playground being in no repair or anything like that, but the one thing I would say that really does need attention is when this went in 10 years ago, we put in this boardwalk, which is low, I think it's like anchored to the earth, they went deep for those suckers. But it is lower than the beach. It is at a lower grade, so it's constantly covered with sand, it's constantly covered with, dog poop and seagull poop and everything else, because it's lower. Now, any boardwalk, you've gone to beaches, boardwalks are up, right? And there's some empty areas so they don't flood and the sand goes right through them. So what we need is the boardwalk being raised about 2 feet, which I'm sure would be obscenely expensive. But that.
We have to ask the man.
You're raising up the whole other area. So since that kind of money is going in, which I'm assuming isn't covered by your current generous people, you might instead want to think of raising the
Let me
boardwalk.
go to the first page, I just want to point out. Perfect. So, a whole other thing going on is, this is a low point where the playground is now, so it floods virtually whenever we have one of our moon tides.
And I'll feel behind it.
Yeah, and the field behind it, and so basically this has been an area that's been problematic for a long time. And it was not part of what was done when we did that initial renovation. And as far as the boardwalk, a lot of the whole plan was it follows the contour of the land. It basically creates a ribbon between the green space and the sand. And that's more or less how the design was set up. Many different opinions about that. What I should also point out is, given the size here, these are locust trees. They're very, there's not a lot of blockage. There's a huge amount of area that's open in the middle. There really are not, based on the scale of the park, a lot of trees.
Side.
You might want none, someone else might want more. It's sort of balancing the parts. The other thing we're doing is, in the area where it's near some of these other activities, is where we're offering a little bit of that near benches, et cetera. And we're just trying to replace elements that have not done as well with some fresh stuff.
So my name is Lisa Gugliotti, 7 Rockland Lane, and I was here for the last iteration of this.
Came to the one downstairs.
Because I didn't know about it. I don't have public access, and I only got this because my neighbor sent me an email. So I bet you most people on Seaside don't even know this is happening.
We sent
Everybody got letters.
I didn't get it.
It's only to the neighbors 100 feet from Jacobs.
Oh,
Yeah, we sent them all out. We have, copies of it. I'll have to check.
Are you on Seaside Avenue?
I'm on Rockland Lane, well, it's adjacent, but our property is on Seaside. Anyway, I had the same issues that I had last time, which was there, it was a ton of trees, and we were assured these are hardy trees that are gonna make it in this beach environment. We were went back and forth a lot about that, and we were told, oh, no, we did a lot of research. These trees are gonna make it, and then I saw tree after tree being replanted and replanted and replanted, and I'm not sure who's paying for all that, because, and also, the street floods constantly with the new design. So we're always, when it rains a lot, there's huge runoff on Seaside, and that's directly from the last update that you did in 2012 or 2013. And also the sunshades. I mean, we were here for, you know, Sandy and Irene, and I could just see projectiles coming. I mean, everything from the beach was in my yard and near my driveway. So I can't imagine what's gonna happen if we have these giant pillars and sunshades as well now to worry about.
They
would come
get
down.
removed easily.
Well, 9 months, I mean, you
No,
know,
they're removable.
There's something coming in.
So if a storm comes in, we go down and take them off.
the shades.
Yes.
I mean, it's still, again, I don't think it's natural for the beach. I don't think it's supposed to be a grassy, you know, park with trees. It's, you know, and I think nature's gonna take it back, so, you know, and I don't know if we want to keep, you know, putting money into something where I've already seen, you know, I was told last time we'll just sweep it off. Well, you know, there's a lot more damage than a little broom can handle. So I'm very concerned about that. And as far as the shade, I mean, that beach is packed all the time. I don't think it's deterring anybody from going there. And my son went to the camp and he was, you know, he was fine. He didn't need extra shade. He sat under the pavilion for lunches. I don't really see the need for these, you know, right on the beach, right near the beach. I mean, are there setback rules for this? I mean, I couldn't put something like that, you know, in my yard. So I'm not sure why we're doing this.
And I think the point
Excuse
there
me,
are-
could you state your name and address for the
I did,
record?
yeah.
I didn't hear, it, sorry.
It's Lisa Gugliotti, 7 Rock Point Lane.
Thanks.
We didn't get the gentleman's name in the back.
Yeah, have you gone on
I
the
know who he is.
experience of other towns with those shade making sales, I'm gonna call
Oh,
it?
yeah, they're used all over the place.
And
I mean, I can think right
Yeah,
away
like-
at Brooklyn Piers, they're huge hit in places like that. Yeah, they've been used all over the country.
So there's,
I'm sure they are, but I've never seen one. Where would I likely see one? How do they stand up under bow droppings, for example? What kind of wind are they good for before they must be taken down?
Basically, they'll be designed for just short of hurricane force winds, but they typically come down when you're gonna have a storm event, you know, a large storm. There's factor of safety.
Just point out that Guilford has many open spaces and parks, and every park doesn't have to be this shade place or whatever. I mean, what's special about Jacobs Beach is it's an ocean beach. I mean, that's what it's about. And, you know, and I mentioned when this was up, 10 years ago, when we did the first one, like the concern with shade on the beach. Is every beach you go to in New Jersey and any state, Rhode Island that has beaches, there's people on them renting you umbrellas. And like the town could buy 10 and make a fortune over the summer just renting it. Nobody is forced to be out in the blazing sun, except maybe our lifeguards. I don't think we've shaded their chairs yet, which we should. But like this notion that you've got to plant a forest on a beach in order to protect people from the sun.
I'm sure we're planting a forest, but,
You've got like 40 trees out there, so it's, it's a lot.
I think as a park and rec, I think in any town, I can recall Rick Maynard always, and I'm sure Pam's been doing this a long time too, is just to always try to benefit, to do as much as we can to, you're not gonna appease everyone, but like to try to benefit the, like, many different people that are here, right? So like if someone really wanted to go down to the beach and enjoy the beach, and if there is no shady areas, they're not able to. I think it's just like a little bit of an accommodation to try to accommodate everybody in a little way that we can. I think that's the goal of the town in a way, to try to just, there's plenty of people that don't agree that we should be putting all these pickleball courts in. But, who are we to say that they're popular? And so will they be popular in 10 years? I don't know. But we always tried, I think at the time, just try to appease everyone a little bit that we can. But I agree with you with the trees. There shouldn't be a lot of trees at the beach. I agree with that. That's a good point that I would have never really thought of. So, yeah, I do.
Question about the tree design, were they intended for shade or was there also consideration for lower, more natural like seagrass?
They were actually intended to be not particularly view blocking and also suitable for the environment. And actually, the vast majority of the trees have survived. The one area we had an issue was primarily in that middle medium
Oh, yeah.
where they were having some issues with drainage, which I think has been resolved.
And the pine trees seem to have a lot, several of them died in that area.
Well, you're bound to, as we pointed out when we originally proposed this, you're bound to lose some trees in this environment when you're starting. It's the nature of the environment.
Yeah.
But the species selected were very much based on this type of environment. And I don't want to go too far because it's not my deep expertise. I'm a generalist, but John could easily fill in more about.
I also
They're
think,
also there, they add an element of scale. You know, if we had, you know, before we did any of this, it was basically a parking lot that came up to sand.
Mhm.
And you read it mostly as parking lot.
Mhm.
And by
As a
creating a
child, that's what I
couple
remember. It
elements,
just was like.
it
Yeah.
changed the
Yeah.
scale and there's been tremendous interest since. So that does say some people are liking it. And I'm not saying this in any disrespect. I'm just saying I
Oh,
think
no.
there's different levels of, okay, a little more, a little less. And I think in some ways, Diane, that you're bringing that very point up. Sir?
The beach, is several times in the season, the site of movies that are shown. Will any of the plantings interfere with
No.
attendees
No,
watching the?
frankly, all these plantings exist except for that tree
Okay.
and a few shrubs there and a few shrubs there. They're all here already. You know, they're not, the planning, the new planning aspect of this is very minor. It's really mostly about playground replacement, adjusting the grade so it's not flooding constantly. With that, hoping to make this lawn work a little better for all the hundreds of people that use it. And a much reduced shade element compared to the earlier scheme years ago. In this zone, which is very clearly set up in this area that's already buffered. That's sort of the gist of it.
If you don't mind my asking, who shows movies at the beach? Did you said something about they were,
I'm sorry?
It's a while back. But again,
oh,
Oh, yes, 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 okay,
you know, they can
yes, yes.
we see movies?
Oh, yes, we
Okay.
did. That's correct, we did. I forgot that, okay. Just curious.
After, you know, you think an additional 6 trees or replacement trees or whatever is nothing, it's huge for those of us there. But I have to mention too, when I was on this committee, whenever we did this years ago, or whatever, I actually looked on the survey, everyone said, oh, the people want shade, the people want shade. And I went through every single one of the surveys that were returned. And 2 people had mentioned while they were on the playground watching their children, it would be nice to have shade. And with that, we're like planting 15 trees, and every time someone raises that as a problem, say, oh, no, the people want shade. And so, I mean, when you tell me people want shade, I have a hard time thinking it's more than 2 people who mentioned it past. Now, maybe it's this outcry, but I just, yeah, I mean, there are other ways of getting shade at the beach, it's known as the beach umbrella.
Right. Yeah, well, we appreciate all your comments and we're listening to you. And again, as was stated, we have to appease the town. And we do so appreciate your coming in and voicing your opinion, because we've had a meeting about the shade structures just before Rick retired and no one showed up from the town. We were all invited and no one came. We've been planning this. It's been in our agenda for a while now. So thank you for your time and thank you for coming. It's very, very important that we hear you. Are there any other comments that you'd like to make?
The next 2 meetings that you said would be addressing this, would we like
Design
Design
review
review.
is the next
And
one.
that is a okay,
June 18th.
June 18th.
so we go to that meeting also, because it's going forward.
I think
Generally,
this
they're
is
public
Zoom,
meetings.
it's Zoom only.
And I also have pictures of the playground that I'd like to share as well.
My husband is short of one stuff,
Turn it on.
thanks to Violet,
Lower
this
this.
wants to raise that, so that was June 18th, did you say?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, and it is done via Zoom, and you can find it if you go to Guilford, Town of Guilford, to the events section, and they have a calendar.
Was that planning and zoning?
No, that was
it's
design
design
review, and you can find it under the date June 18th, and you can click on everything, and it just comes up.
And you have to do by Zoom, there's no real meeting.
I don't think there is a real
No
meeting
meeting in person after that.
in person.
The Zoom link is already posted on the town's website.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks
we
for coming.
appreciate you all, thank you.
I'd make a motion.
So we have a motion that we adjourn the public meeting. And we still have one item left on the agenda to,
But do you want to go through the designs?
yes, so we're gonna adjourn the public meeting, so
Okay.
can we have a second for the public meeting adjournment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, excellent, now we're back into our regular meeting. We don't need a motion to get back in, do we? All these motions, all right, so now we're on our final one, which is new business, the playground recommendations that we would like for you to vote for, actually. So here we go, is the plan, the revised plan for,
Right, so I'd like
Okay.
to mention that we want to go into this saying that this had, even from when the playground committee last met, this has changed a little bit. You know, the colors were tweaked a little bit. We heard from some neighbors, they like the teal and the cream. So he changed his color scheme a little bit, but we kept in the royal blue
Maybe the
board and
blues,
play
yeah,
rubber.
they didn't have a problem with the blue on the ground,
On the
which we
ground,
were surprised
right.
at, but.
The shade structure, in our playground survey, which we got just under 1,000 respondents. Many people, even if they were in the 60% that were like the compan, many of the 300 comments liked the shade structure so much, they said, can't you take that from that one and put it in the compan? However, when I met with Tara and just last week, the little group there were all for this design, so has a, let's see if I can pull it up. Get a closer sign.
Well, I like that the kids, there's a section for the smaller kids, it's,
matters.
I like that.
So this is the 5 to 12, and as you can see, which I think is a pretty unique design, having worked with a lot of different playgrounds, is that having neck climber that actually becomes a climbing device to get to the tower.
Yeah, that's cool.
Which is pretty
It's
cool.
nice.
So that climbing net can really handle a lot of children too. And he's got like he's got some cute elements to the side. All his benches are included in his design as well.
Ah.
And if you look to the far, actually, I got another design that will
So
show.
what was that? Looks like a faux rock wall, like a rock, like a tent rock or something to climb in, climb on.
That's just a different angle.
Right, different angle.
Yeah.
And so one of the questions I did ask John is that spinner that you see in the middle of the
Oh, yeah.
blue
Yeah.
Still
is a
has it.
handicap, it's a
Nice.
handicap spinner where
Oh,
a
neat.
wheelchair could just
I like
roll
that.
in.
Oh, really?
And we just put one in Darien, it's hugely popular.
That's wonderful.
Kids climb on it and they pile on it, and it has pretty good movement to it too. However, did ask him today to give me his true feelings on whether in a coastal environment, because all the electronics of the
Oh.
spinner are below
Oh.
ground.
Yeah.
So we may have to make an adjustment with
Yeah.
that. I think that would work better at Bittner. And I'd asked if we could put that at Bittner.
Electronics, what do you mean?
Well, no, it's just all the mechanical.
Oh.
I know, I'm thinking, when we were young, we didn't have that.
Just white,
Yeah.
the mechanicals.
So you can also see that where the blue is. That's where all it's wheelchair accessible
Right.
for
Nice,
not
yes,
just
right.
a participant,
I
but
like
somebody who is also watching their
Gotcha.
child who might be in a wheelchair or disabled or unbalanced.
Yep, so that's
Actually, yeah, that rope thing you're talking about, that big pole, is that any kind of danger that
The
the
big
kids can
pole.
get up there?
You know, that's, oh no, that's how they probably can slide down the middle of it, right?
Oh, is that?
They have one,
Oh, you
they
mean the
have one at
tower?
Common Lead.
Yeah.
No, the pole with the
No,
tower.
the pole
white
in the.
No, you
kinda
can't
weird to me.
fall off, like, the fall zone is that you're gonna fall on nets.
Yeah.
If you go to Calvin
Oh,
Lee,
that it
if you
is?
go to Calvin Lee,
I
they
have
have
to
the
keep having
exact
to-
They do,
timer.
and I
okay.
can't remember
And
if
it
you
goes
can go
up
down or
20
not.
feet, and the kids just, that you can put 40 kids on it.
Yeah.
It's basically.
And it's fall.
Yeah. Well, this one is not, this is,
You
it's
gotta go over there.
engineered wood fiber.
Oh.
Only the blue
Oh,
is,
that's
and the reason there's only that is because it's so expensive that we would have blown our entire budget.
That would.
Why?
Yeah.
It's
Like
awesome.
that right there,
Take
then
a lot of kids.
See the spider one that used to be there when I was a kid, I used to be terrified of it.
Okay, so the
Something in that.
2 to 5 year old section, we still gotta keep going there.
So,
And it's.
so here's the 2 to 5, and he did make a shift in this because in the compan, it was they had some sort of like sailboat, so he made an accommodation to the original unit and made it, you know, a little boat area for 2 to 5s with some fun animal elements, and then, yeah, he's got a musical element in the rubber. I'm pretty sure that's musical. I have to check with him on
And
that.
there's lots of sensory.
Yeah, sensory.
in
So
both.
there's climbing stuff there too, though?
Climbing.
No, not really.
A little bit, you get a little.
It's always on the climbing stuff.
There's a little bit.
You've got a, no,
Enough that it's low.
Right, but that's up to, again, that's up
Climb
to
on
the
the
parents,
I know,
right?
probably be the other.
So most likely, there's gonna be some kids climbing up, just like at the elementary school, right? And there's 5-year-olds climbing up that structure, but
my
that's
granddaughter would
totally,
not be on that. She'd be on that.
exactly, so that's a parental thing.
Yeah.
But I love how he was mindful of putting the watching area in the middle between the 2 age groups.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the walking path that goes around, which I think is really great too, and, yeah,
Are those benches under the shade?
yes, yeah, he has handicap accessible benches.
You know, I'm thinking about where we could place benches.
But those are in his budget.
Those look
Oh,
like picnic
okay.
tables under.
Well, they're, sorry, picnic tables,
Oh,
In the
the
shade.
tables, okay.
Thank you for that part. So that's just another side to the ship, if you will. And let's see, this is a close-up. I think I showed you that already. So I think that's about it. I'll give you one more full look.
Okay,
This
so,
angle is as if you were looking at the water.
but you won't see.
It's a trial of all big trees.
So what we need is a motion to approve this so we can take it to design review on June 18th. So can we have a motion to approve?
No move.
And a second? And is there any more discussion for? All in favor? Aye. Excellent. Do you have the other playground?
I do not, so
Is
it's
that
part
going-
of this. It wasn't part of this, but yes, it is gonna go design review, yes.
Do we need to make a motion for that? We've seen the other ones.
yeah.
The one at
Motion
Bittner.
to do this, we should make a motion.
Right, so we need to make a motion to do the ones at
To
Bittner.
approve.
The Bittner is going to be the same firm.
I might have pictures I can pull up.
We have 2 pictures in our. report
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, so is that?
Or we have 1 picture, I guess.
It is very exciting. The one at Bittner was just so easy to decide in my mind, and most of the people who looked at it, on the committee, we all agreed 100% on that. I will admit, I thought I wanted the one we're going for now first. Then I got moved over to the other side and the other, then I got moved back again. So it's very hard to decide, but so can we make a motion to approve the Bittner Park Playscape
By
as
creative recreation.
by Creative Recreation?
Sure, I'll make a motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank
Still
you.
looking for the picture.
Okay, having
But
said
yeah,
that,
on page
I have a
3 of our-
motion to adjourn the meeting at, actually, first I'd like to thank Will for being here and for
Yes,
presenting
thank
that.
you. That was
Because when Pam had originally said, oh, yes, and we'll be having a public meeting, and I was like, do I have to do anything? Do I have to present or something? So thank you very much for all the time that you've given us and all the attention. It's really been wonderful to work with
So
you.
I
So
would like
thank
to
you.
say on a personal note, my husband used to work for Will.
Okay.
At Thompson and Burns for many, many, many years.
Is that good or
He's a
bad?
great guy.
Okay. So put that in the minutes.
Put that in the minutes.
Still recording, maybe you should.
So thank you, Will, please make a motion, someone to adjourn, someone.
Second.
Second, all in favor, aye, okay, thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for bringing, you probably also, thank you, not yet. Trying to find it.
So if anyone wants to see, this is what used to be at Jacob's Beach when I was a little kid.
You, oh, how did you?
You remember that?